Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Hunt the Wild podcast. I'm your host, Adam Bowlds, and today I'm joined with Ryan Frampton. Did I say that right? Frampton?
You did, Frampton. Yep.
And we're going to be talking some DIY elk hunts, some out west stuff. I've been kind of MIA for the past few weeks. I've been chasing some of these bucks in Indiana and Kentucky, and it's the rut here. So I'm sure, hopefully, you guys will understand why I've not been around so much, but we're going to pick back up and hopefully get some more episodes out. So I'm going to start and have Ryan introduce himself, tell a little bit about himself so you guys can get to know him, and then we'll jump into the show.
Sweet, sweet.
How you doing?
Yes, my name's Ryan. I'm good. I'm good. How about you?
Not too bad, man.
I'm good. Yes, my name's Ryan Frampton. I was born and raised in this little town called Whitefish, Montana, which is kind of the northwest corner of Montana. And I've kind of lived on in the same house, same property. I'm really close with a lot of people in the area and have gotten a lot of really good friends from there. I grew up in the outdoors a lot. My dad used to take me pheasant hunting when I was really little, and my grandpa as well. And I kind of grew up bird hunting like that. But for the most part, I was a tennis player for the first part of my life. My whole family was really into it. We used to compete a lot, and we trained all over and competed all over. And so, really, the biggest portion of my life was tennis for a long time, and hunting was kind of just on the side. And there was a slow transition over time where hunting became the main focus of my life, and now it's my passion. I feel like it's what I live for, and my whole year and my whole mindset is just constantly fixed on hunting and figuring out what I'm going to do next. So yeah, it's a little bit about me. It's just I love hunting. I have the best mom in the world, the best dad in the world. I have an older sister who actually plays tennis for Gonzaga, and a younger brother who's still in high school. He's a junior, and me and him hunt a lot every year. And then I'm at Carroll College right now as well, and I'm a philosophy and theology major here at Carroll College, which is in Helena, the capital of Montana.
What was the first hunt that you went on? Was that pheasants, or
Yeah,
do you
pheasants for
remember?
sure. Yeah, no, it was pheasants. I do actually remember it was second grade, and my grandpa let me. I didn't actually hunt. I just walked with them. It's a lot of like walking and walking and stuff like that. And I got to carry a BB gun around, and he would have me to practice. He'd have me pull up on birds with the BB gun and point at them, and that's kind of how I started. And um, over time, I kind of got the feel of pheasant hunting, and then when I was 13, I went to hunter's ed, and then was able to go on my first real pheasant hunt. And uh, I remember shooting a bird, my first bird with my dad. I remember where it was to this day, and that was really special. My first deer hunt was that same year as well, and I kept talking to my dad about how badly I wanted a big game hunt from watching so many different YouTube videos over the years and just talking to people. And even though my dad's not a big game hunter, he offered to take me out, and we went up about an hour from our house, and he kind of outfitted me on a little deer hunt. I mean, I ended up getting a little 3x3 buck, my first buck, and it was a super special experience. I still remember to this day, just kind of the love of my dad taking me out, even though he didn't really know a ton about deer hunting. He still took me out and helped me out in getting my first buck, and it was really special.
What's the age there to take hunters ed? Is it 13, or did they just make you wait that long?
It's 12. I believe it's
Okay.
12, and I don't know why I took it when I was 13, but because I was super excited about hunting. So I don't know why I waited a year, but I believe it's 12, and then there's some apprentice program, I believe, where you can start at
Yeah.
like 10 if you're with, I can't remember the rules, but usually it's 12. 12 is the normal
Maybe
age.
maybe they just wanted to give you another year. Thought you weren't ready yet or
Could
something.
be, could be. I was also I had a fear of guns when I was little, just them going off, and I was
Yeah.
scared of the noise and stuff too. So it could have been fear from me. I can't really remember what it was, but yeah, 13 is usually when I took it though.
So you told me a little bit about your dad like not being super big into like big game hunting and all that stuff, and you got involved kind of like going down the rabbit hole in YouTube and like kind of just like figuring it out yourself a little bit right after that, or
Yeah, no, for sure. It was because my dad was always a pheasant hunter. And I think he killed one or two deer when he was younger, and then he actually got an elk as well, which is pretty surprising when he was in his 30s, I think. But besides that, he hadn't really big game hunted at all. Uh, and yeah, I started watching. I don't know. Do you know Randy Newberg by any chance? Have you heard of
Yeah,
him?
I mean I don't know him, but I know who he is. Yeah.
Yeah, you know
Yeah.
of him. He's like the guy that I watched from a really young age.
hmm
Right when he started putting YouTube videos out, I was watching them, and I got to meet him one time, and I mean I am his biggest fan, man. I've been following him forever, and he's really like he taught me a lot about how to hunt his podcast and his videos in from a young age. I would watch those, and that's kind of what helped me out when I started kind of teach myself how to hunt more big game. Watching videos like that, and then just any other YouTube videos like the Hush YouTube channel, stuff like that. Those kind of, and then it's just over time. Like the more podcasts you listen to, like the Hunt the Wild, anything, the more knowledge you're getting, and the more it can be applied in the field. And then combine that with this experience. That's kind of where I got to where I am today.
Is there a reason why you drifted more towards big game than like small game, pheasant, stuff like that? Or is it just you don't really know why you just kind of gravitated that way?
I that's a good question. I The big game has really attracted me just because it's just such a big and I don't know. I don't want to say it's like my size, but having an animal that's like bigger than me, like an elk especially, that I'm
Yeah.
hunting like that, it's such a cool feeling. And then being in their habitat, especially like with a bow, um, being in with them in their habitat and hunting them in that way, it's just so different than pheasant hunting. Where you got dogs and they're trying to sniff them out, and you can talk normally, like just as loud, and um, you're walking. It's kind of more of a sometimes seems like a social thing. A lot of times,
Yeah.
like pheasant hunting, just because you're always talking, and it's not like a hunt. And there's a difference between that and then like the deer, elk, and antelope, where it's a lot of stalking and a lot of like being in their environment and being there with them, and having them not know that you're there is such a you almost feel like not superior to the antelope, but you feel like you've tricked them and you've got them kind of thing. So it's just different. And I think I was attracted to that hunting part of it, the real hunt portion of that big game hunting.
Yeah, I really get like what you're like trying to get uh say there or whatever. I really like the chess match of deer hunting. I think that's why I'm
Hmm.
so attracted to it. Like you said, just like them not knowing that I'm there and being able to track them and be able to find their prints and where they're living at and specific times of the year. I really like to squirrel hunt too, and I think it's not as chess matchy, but it is kind of because you got to be so stealthy and quiet, and it's not kind of
Yeah.
like rabbit hunting is a little different. Like you be loud. The whole point of like hunting rabbits is to be loud and run them out and brush them out. But when you hunt squirrels or you hunt deer or something, you got to be super stealthy. And yeah, I mean, I think some people are attracted to like the camaraderie of like being out there with their buddies and being loud and talking, and others are just kind of like there for to kind of be immersed in it, a little silence. And all right, Ryan, can you tell me a little bit about we lost connection there, so we're gonna pick back up here like nothing happened. Can you talk a little bit about chasing elk with a bow and what all that involves? I see on like social media and stuff that it's like super like physically demanding, mentally exhausting. Like, I have no idea. I've never been. I live in Indiana. I've never been west of Missouri, and I was at the east part of Missouri when I was there, so I haven't really been super deep that way. So I really have no idea what that's like. There is elk in Kentucky, but it's a draw thing, and
I heard that.
that's a
I,
that's a
I didn't
whole
know there
nother
were elk
thing.
in Kentucky.
Yeah, I think they were originally there, and then they shot them all off years ago, and they tried to bring them back. And I think there might, don't quote me, but it might be like a herd of 500 or something. They might draw like 50 tags or 100 tags a year or something, but it's like super hard to get drawn, and
Yeah,
I think pretty expensive.
I thought Steve Ranella did an episode with an elk in Kentucky. I'm not sure. I think he did something like that, but
He may
um,
have.
I don't know. It's in his probably his new season, but anywho, yeah, elk with a bow is one of the most challenging hunts. Not that I'm an experienced hunter like with all species, but from what I've seen, it's got to be like one of the most challenging hunts that exists. It's just so much that goes into it, and it's so physically demanding. Um, Especially the elk hunting I enjoy. I prefer to be. I don't get to do it as often as I'd like, but I prefer to be out there with them, as in like staying like multiple nights in an area, um, and kind of being in their habitat for multiple days, so I can begin to kind of pattern them and know what they're doing. But I'll couple that with the fact that I think bow hunting with the elk for an elk is one of the most fun things I mean you can do. It's just especially in the rut and having a bugling bull close to you. It's an unreal experience.
Can
There is a
you,
lot that goes into it though.
I'm sorry, can you kind of lay out, just like kind of paint the picture? Like, let's say you're gonna go hunt an elk or whatever. So you're like, I don't know, let's say when's elk season there? Is it like September or something?
So we have 6 weeks of archery elk hunting, and then we have 6 weeks of rifle hunting directly following that. And it
Okay.
starts September 2nd or 3rd.
Okay, so let's say you're gonna go September 3rd or whatever. You're out of school. Yeah, you played hooky, whatever. So let's say you're like a month out and um, you're planning to go out, stay out 3, 4, 5 days. I don't know how long you stay. Kind of paint the picture. Like, tell me everything you put in your truck to load up, to where you drive to how far you walk in. Can you like just lay out the whole picture? Like, if you shoot one, what do you do? Because I have no idea. I don't pack meat in bags and carry it out. Like, so I've drug
Oh
deer
yeah.
for a mile before, packed in my truck, but I've butchered them, but I've never I've never done that whole. I really have no idea. So can you try
Yeah.
to like lay it out, paint the picture for everybody? Because I think a lot of people aren't from out west and they have like no idea either. I'd love to know
Yeah.
like what I need to prepare for if I want to go out west and hunt.
Yeah, this is a loaded question. So this is going to take a little bit to answer, but no,
Okay.
I'm happy to do it. So the first thing you got to do is you got to get, if especially if you're coming from a different area, or even if you're like in Montana and you're going to a different area, you never know what to expect until you like really get out there. But I would first thing get on Onyx, and I'd be researching a lot of things. I mean, I'd be first of all, everything I look for is roadless areas. So the first thing I look for is like, what is the farthest piece of land from a road in my unit? That's the first thing I look for, because elk are super unattracted to roads and all the people road hunting for elk. So
Let me
they usually go to these.
Let me pause you there. Are you hunting public and do you get to pick what unit you go to, or are you like they say
Yeah,
you get unit 3 or something?
that's a good question. Yeah, so Montana has a general units, and oh, hold on 1 second. The lights just turned off. 1 second.
It's okay.
I'll pick up with. Oh, I guess I just need to move in the room. That's what I need to do. um, so, or I'll pick up right there. So, Montana has general units and they have limited entry units. So, a really good portion of the state is just general units, which means a resident can just go buy a tag and just go hunt all these general units. And I mean,
Okay.
it's got to be more than half of the state is like that. It's really amazing. And then non-residents have to draw an elk tag for that, but usually the odds are really high of you being able to draw just a general elk tag. And then there's limited entry units. And then you before like in March, usually go online and you put in for those units. Like let's say I really want to hunt unit 20 this year, so I go on and I say I'm going to apply for unit 20. If I draw it, great. If not, I still get my general elk tag and I can go hunt all that other land in the state, pretty much.
Okay.
And yes, usually it's public. Oftentimes I am just going into public areas and hunting. There are just millions and millions of acres of Forest Service land. There is BLM land, which you can hunt as well. And then there's also block management area land, which is private landowners that are paid by the government to allow hunters to come hunt that. And there's also thousands of acres of block management land that offer incredible hunting as well. So
let me ask you this. So let's just say, for example, unit 10, like let's just say there's 10 units in the whole state. Is the whole state taken up by a unit on a map? So like is there like a unit that has private pieces in it too that you can try to get permission on, or are the units only like public or part of that draw?
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah,
if that makes
our
sense.
Units, yeah, it does. Our units here are pretty. There's some units that are just huge, and it's a mixture of private and public.
Okay.
And so when you draw a unit, you have access to all the public, obviously, and then if it's a general, you obviously have access to all the public, and then you can also ask permission for private land in that unit that you're hunting as well, and that's fine. But you can't go hunt private land in a unit that you haven't drawn necessarily.
Oh, you cannot.
You cannot. No. If it's like let's just say that unit 16 is a very coveted unit, but your buddy has 1,000 acres out there, you can't just go hunt that. You have to draw the tag first, and then you can go hunt it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay. Yeah, appreciate the clarity.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the Onyx is kind of the only way I can really hunt. It's really a lifesaver, and I spend a lot of hours before I hunt on Onyx, figuring out exactly. I mean, in summary, I go where people don't want to go, pretty much. Like if there's just a brutal mountain with a brutal hill, and like people look at it like, oh, I'd never want to pack an elk out of there. That's where I try to go, because that's where all the elk are going to go from the hunting pressure, pretty much. And sometimes that's 2, 3, 4 miles in, and it's bad. I've been with people and packed out bulls for them and stuff, and it's brutal, but it's obviously worth it in the end. A big part of that is also water. I look at water a lot, especially this year. We had a very dry year. There was a huge drought, especially kind of the central eastern Montana. And so I was just hunting water this year. I was finding where there's water, and I know the elk are going to be somewhat close to water. They drink 10 to 15 gallons a day per elk. Especially if there's a herd of 100 elk, you know they've got to be close to a big water source every day.
Okay, so you've picked out your spot on Onyx. I guess you can take a buddy with you. You can go solo, but you're going to go camp out in this unit you got drawn for. What do you put in your truck? Like, what are you taking with you? Like, you taking a big camping stove? You taking like a little jet boil? Like, you taking nothing? Just tell me everything you're taking.
Yeah, no, I got you. So first of all, essential is a good cooler. I mean, that is so vital, especially if you're bow hunting, because it gets hot and you want to get that meat cooled as quickly as you can. And I'll go into meat when I get there and how to take care of your meat, because that's why we hunt. Like that's the biggest thing you got to take care of. So I'm packing a good tent, a good sleeping pad, and a good camping pillow. Pillows are key. I've done it without the pillow and the little like sweatshirt thing, and it does not work. So pillow's key, and if I can, I do like sleeping in the bed of my truck or setting up a tent next to my truck so I can just have my truck there. But sometimes we do go into an area and backpack. But either way, I'm still bringing a sleeping bag, a tent, a sleeping pad, and a pillow for that. So there's that. If I'm going into an area, I'm always bringing a jet boil. We're not really hauling in a camp stove. Usually a jet boil, and then I use it's called an MSR stove. They're phenomenal. They're super lightweight. And a lot of my meals are Mountain House. You know what that is? Mountain House.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah, Mountain House. They're great. They taste amazing. And they're really light. A lot of this, I'll keep talking about lightweight, because that's very important, especially when you're going to be packing out an elk, hopefully on the way back. So, good stove. Where was I? Yeah, it's a good stove like that. You can bring water in, but you're never going to bring enough water in. So a really good water filtration system is also really important. And when I do camp, I like to go somewhere near water so I can kind of always have it close by. Uh, and So yeah, I do that. Another essential is a very, just by the way, just stop me whenever you have a question, but because I'm just going to keep
Okay.
going. But
Yeah, keep going. Run us through the whole deal. So if
that
you're camping, like how far are you camping away from where these elk are at? Like 4
totally
miles?
depends. Yeah, it totally depends. If I'm within 2 miles of elk, I just camp at the truck because I just
Okay.
prefer to be by the truck.
Yeah.
I mean, elk they're just never in the same area. They're always like moving, relatively
Okay.
speaking. So you never know. Like I can never really wake up and know there's going to be elk within, like I'll just say 100 acre piece of land. Like they're just going to be all over the place. So it really doesn't matter where you're going to end up camping because you're probably going to be wrong when you go in for that elk that you think are going to be right there. Um, they're not very like territorial by any means. So, oh yes, there's that. And then, what was I saying? So good jet boil, water filtration, mountain houses a lot. If I'm by the truck, I will bring a camp stove. I have one that I borrow from a friend, and that's really nice to have like full camp gear.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we did this year on our first elk hunt. I got to just go by the truck because it was, I think it was we gained about 1,500 feet in the morning for our first hike, and it was about 2.5 miles to our glassing spot. Um,
Okay.
so with that, usually I'm hiking in the dark, and so a good headlamp, as you probably know, is or a headlight is super important. And even two.
Are you guys using white light or does it matter? Like here we
Yeah,
everyone wants to use red light or no light.
uh, yeah. I usually do try to use red light when I can, and green light. I usually end up preferring the white light, and especially if I'm
Mm-hmm.
hiking into an area and I know that on my hike I'm not going to run into elk, I'll just flip on the white light, um, and go with that. And another thing that's like kind of interesting because I've been listening to your podcast a lot. I guess I can't really say we, me and my all my friends and everybody knows that really hunts doesn't really do a lot for scent control.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is just like the sprays and stuff. Uh, Reason being is that there's not when you're camping out there, you sweat so much in a day and you're shedding layers, taking on layers, like your clothes are by your camp and all this stuff. And there's not much you can do but play the wind correctly. So and usually it works out okay for us. It's good also being out in the woods a lot and you're brushing up against sagebrush and trees and stuff, and it usually covers your scent pretty good. But yeah, usually it's not a bad. I don't think it's a bad idea to do it by any means, but yeah, usually we don't. I don't pack that stuff in, especially if I'm trying to save weight. Uh, so there's that. When I also as a just as a reminder for that cooler, I usually try to pack in. First of all, the night before I leave my cooler open, and then I
Okay.
put so the inside gets cold, and then I'll put big blocks of ice, usually if I can, frozen milk jugs in there, so that when it does melt, eventually the water's not getting out of it. And I put those in the Yeti and close it, and I don't open that cooler until I got meat going in there.
Okay.
And that's really vital. So if it's a 4 day, 5 day hunt, you'll still have frozen milk jugs in there uh, when it's all over. So yeah, there's that in the truck. So you go in. A very good pack is also really important. A good frame pack for packing out meat, and then finally a really good knife. I can do a whole elk with one knife. I don't need a bone saw or anything like that. And then really good game bags is the other really important part.
I'm interested in what kind of knife you use.
Do you know the Gerber Vital blades? Have you heard of
uh,
those?
I don't think so.
They're awesome. They're awesome, man. They're just a replaceable scalpel blade knife.
Oh, yeah, I use like the Havilland. I don't know if you've seen
Yes, yeah,
it,
I know those. Yeah, I have.
but
Yeah,
it's the same concept, replaceable scalpel blade, probably just a different
yeah,
frame on the knife. But I love those
yeah.
things.
They're great, man. They're awesome. So yeah, I use that, and I can usually get the head off an elk pretty easily with that as
Oh,
well.
yeah. Okay, so
And then
you
you kind of got to be prepared as well. It's a lot of packing. My bowl this year took 6 pack loads to get it off the mountain. So
my
it's just
gosh.
it's just a lot. Yeah. So
How
it's
many
one good.
how many people is that? Like how many people were with you when you did it?
So I've never done an elk solo.
Okay.
Granted, I've only shot 2 elk, and I had my brother there both times. But um, I mean, it's 6 pack loads, so it could be if you have 3 people, it would take 2 trips. One person, probably going to be 5 or 6 trips. So usually, so this year I carried out a hind quarter of my elk bone in, and it was brutal. I mean, it was brutal. So usually one pack loads these are the different pack loads. You have one trip's a hind quarter, another one's the other hind quarter. You can usually get the front quarter and like a back strap for a trip, the other front quarter and a back strap, and then the last trip is the head, and the cape and the tenderloins, if you want to do that, something like that.
Man.
And then the cape can be its own trip too. That those elk capes are, if you're gonna cape an animal, they are super heavy too.
So if you got two guys and you're 4 mile, let's just cut it. Let's say you're 2 miles back. Let's just say like it's a normal 2 mile thing. You got two guys, you shoot one, I don't know, right at dusk. Like you find
Yeah,
it. What are you doing? Like, are you hanging that meat? Are you leaving it on the
yeah.
ground? Like,
Hanging meat gets it like it cools down so fast. Even if it's hot outside in the middle of the day, if you can get meat hung up in the shade, it actually cools down very quickly, surprisingly. Um, so yeah, first thing when you find the elk, and I've kind of been like really lucky with all my animals in general. I haven't with my personal animals, I haven't had anything really bad, but I've been with people who've had some pretty brutal, especially a moose. Moose, I've never done it, but my best friend Eric, who I've hunted with forever, he did a moose earlier this year, and he was telling me about it. It was bad, but anyway, so first thing we do when we get it is tag it, and then we do the gutless method. Have you heard of that?
I think so. Yeah.
Pretty much you don't gut the animal. All you
You
do
just
is you just
cut all the
skin
meat
it
off.
and then cut all the meat off the outside of it, and you can reach under and get those tenderloins as well. So for my bowl this year, I actually shot it about 20 minutes before shooting light ended. So we got it all caped out, gutless method. We got it all hung up. My brother and I both got a load and took it out. And then the next day, we go hang that at camp just so I don't have to open that cooler 2 or 3 times. I hang it up at camp. And then we go back and we start making the trips the next day or the following day after that. And usually by that time, we can call in other people to come help us. So ideally, you have one trip that night, and the next day you can get other people to come up, and then you can get it all in one more load if you have other people. And
And
then,
you guys have bears there, right? Are you not worried about any
yeah,
of that?
that is a different story right there. Luckily, I this year I wasn't in a bear area, but up where I live in Whitefish, the grizzlies they're thick up there. There's a lot.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so when we get back to camp, we'll bone out the meat, and then unless we can just stick it in the back of the truck if it's cool enough, and just go take it to a processor. But if not, we can bone out the meat and put it in coolers. For bears, there's a rule up here in Montana that if you ever find a carcass and if there's a grizzly bear on it, they don't want you to go up to that carcass. So they'll actually give you another tag for if you do come across a bear on your meat ever, which is kind of a cool rule. And just in terms of meat, you kind of just hang it up a little bit, and you should really like hang it up in an area when you're hiking into the area, you can have a really good visual of the meat to see if there's a
Hmm.
bear on it instead of kind of going in blind. That's really important. And then they also say kind of like urinating, like you yourself urinating like around kind of the area is also good. And that'll kind of keep bears away a little bit as well.
Let me ask you this: how do they keep people from shooting one and then
A
saying
bear?
no? Like how they keep people from shooting like an elk and then saying, "Hey, there was a bear on the meat when we came back. I need another tag," but there actually wasn't. I mean, does that happen?
I've never heard of it happening. Usually there's game wardens pretty available. And oftentimes you can I think I've only talked to one person that's ever had it happen. But game wardens will come and check out the carcass and
Oh,
come see it.
they'll come
Hmm.
look to make sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
unless it's like really far in there, then probably not. But
Yeah.
a lot of times if it's closer, they'll go check it out, and if not, it's kind of just the honor system. Usually people
Yeah.
are pretty good about that.
Yeah. I could see how people could get, I mean, I just kind of like see a scenario where somebody shoots one and then they're like, man, there was a nicer one with it. I really want to kill him. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I'm sure that kind of stuff happens, but I just didn't know if you'd ever heard of like that being an issue, or because I've never heard anything like that. Of course, we don't have
No, I've
bears
been
here, but
really lucky though, and I've everyone I've really talked to have been very ethical, good hunters like that. I haven't really met anybody that's super, shady like that or knows people really like that. So I don't know. I've been lucky with it though.
that must mean you're hanging out with the right crowd.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
What you talked a little bit about a processor. I never really thought about people taking an elk to a processor. What's that
Oh yeah,
cost?
man. My elk. First of all, so I got 205 pounds of meat this year off my
Okay.
elk, and it was $285, I think. And I also had a lot of jerky made and a lot of pepper sticks made with that as well.
Yeah. So that's not, it's about, so around my area, which is southern Indiana, I'm right by Illinois and right by Kentucky. So super southern Indiana. It's anywhere from 100 to 120 for a basic cut fee. So that's just like steaks, ground, whatever. And then if you want extra stuff made, it's usually like if you want like summer sausage made or anything like that, it's usually around $3 a pound. So, and
Okay.
off a deer, a lot of people think you get a lot of meat off a deer. Like I shot well, that buck I shot was 195. He's like right at 200 pounds, and I got, I don't know, 50 pounds off of him. People think you
Oh,
kill
that's
a deer,
awesome.
you get like a ton. So it can get pretty expensive if you take a deer to a processor, but
Oh yeah.
it doesn't sound like an elk's too bad. I mean,
No, it's really not, especially if
for
you're
the amount of
killing
meat
one
you get
ear.
back.
Yeah, exactly. And then for how much meat or how long it takes you to get through that throughout the year,
Yeah.
it's actually a pretty good deal.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about your first archery elk kill? Can you kind of run us through
Mhm.
that? I'm sure you
Yeah,
were like amped up when you got that
oh, I
done.
was freaking out, man. It was a cow elk actually, and oh my gosh, I was stoked out of my mind. I got really lucky and actually got some private land permission, which isn't very common really for elk in Montana. Usually a lot of the private land uh, areas are often outfitters a lot.
Oh, okay.
And I got pretty lucky. This guy that my dad knows, again, my dad getting me another connection. He's been talking about these elk that are hanging on his property, and he told me I should come try to get one. And I put up some trail cameras before season because we can't have them here during season, and I kind of saw where they were going by um, this area, and I didn't see any bulls, but I didn't really care. I just really wanted an elk, and so first day of archery season, I was out there with my brother Luker, and we sat. And the first morning, we didn't see anything, which wasn't bad. We were all good with it. We kind of stayed there till we left that night. We were right. I mean, we were close. Being private land, we were pretty close to a road, so we just left that night and headed out. Went back home and came back. We were hunting about an hour from my house, about and the next day, just got super lucky, and these elk came by, kind of right down where I thought they would. It was awesome. I was so shaky. Oh man, the lights turned off again. Let's like,
It's all good.
let's go walk around. All right. So
He's at school right now, and he's sitting in like
yeah,
an empty classroom, and the lights keep shutting off for anybody that's listening through
yeah.
the
I just
audio.
gotta stand up and just move around a little bit, and they turn back on. So I was super shaky on my first shot. It was just like something I've just dreamed about, for so long, and I just pictured it so many times in my head that it was kind of just surreal that it was happening a little bit. Uh, and I was shaking, and I missed it at 40 yards. And the whole group kind of saw me, and they all kind of just scooted back a little bit. And elk they're not like whitetails really, where if you miss them, they'll just take off. They're kind of curious a lot of times, especially if they don't smell you. They're kind of curious what the sound was. So they scooted back to 60 yards, and I ended up making a pretty good shot. And it ran a little ways, and then died, and it was great. Again, super lucky. I had a landowner there that had a tractor, and he was able to
Oh
load it
yeah.
up. Oh my gosh, it was so lucky. And I was able to get that thing out pretty much whole, and took it to a processor, and it was amazing. It was just absolutely incredible. And then do it with Luker was also super
Do you
cool.
guys do you guys even gut them when you like in that situation if you have a
Hmm.
tractor and do you have to gut them before you take them to a processor?
Yep, yeah, we got it that one. Mostly for weight is the reason we got it, just because
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
and it is just huge. I mean, compared to a deer, getting all those guts out is pretty big. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, they can be heavy even on a big whitetail, so I can only imagine like I mean, I have no idea. I've seen elk up close. Um just when I've been in Tennessee, they have a little bit of an elk population, but you can't hunt them like tourists can see them or whatever. So I've like seen them up close, but I've never grabbed a gut pile or like, touched one. So I really have no idea like how massive they
Yeah,
probably are.
like an elk heart. I was just like, I don't know. People listening can't see this, but I mean, it's got to be like 8 or 9 inches. Oh, more than that, like 8 or 9 inches long, though. Just like the heart, they're just huge. I mean, that's like a meal in and of itself, right there. It's one of
Are
those
you
elk
a
hunts.
are you a guy that eats heart?
So I've never really been, but this year I was hunting with my best friend Eric, and we were in eastern Montana, and he shot this antelope, and we had seen Steve Ranella actually eat was it an antelope heart? I think it was an antelope heart. I can't remember what it was, but Eric was like, "Oh, we should just try this. Let's just see how it is." I'm like, "All right." So we pull it out, keep it, and I was unfortunately not able to be there with him when he cooked it and ate it, but he told me that he will never throw a heart away again. After eating it, he said it was absolutely fantastic. So
So are
I,
you
I probably
intrigued
will be
by it?
now.
You gonna do it this year?
Oh, I'm definitely intrigued by it for sure. I actually kept what did I keep? I kept my whitetail deer heart, and it's in my freezer. So when I get back home, I'm cooking that thing up for sure.
Yeah, I started eating it a couple years ago. It's okay to me. It's not like my favorite, but I kind of
Hmm.
like it on occasion or something. But one thing that I've found is I make sure I trim all the fat. You know how you kind of look at it and you can see like the white fat on the outside a little bit. So I
Yeah.
make sure I always trim all that out really well, get all the valves and stuff out. And then once I cut it, like however I'm gonna cook it, I like to soak it in salt water for a day or two. It really like pulls a lot of that blood out. And
Oh, really? Okay.
I think like I like rare bloody steak, but I don't really care for it as much when it's a heart for some reason. I don't really know why. I try to pull out as much as I can, so that might be something you try. I've heard people of soaking it in buttermilk, or
I've heard
milk
that too, actually. Yeah.
helps pull some of that like I hate to use the word gamey, but that gamey taste out of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd be interested to see what you think about it. Did he fry it or did he like
He
put
fried
it
it.
in the
Yeah. Yeah, he fried
yeah.
it. So
Cool.
yeah, he said it was awesome though, and he actually kept his. He shot a bull 2 weeks ago, actually, a nice 6x6, and he kept that hard as well. So I think we'll make that one too, and maybe compare it to my deer and see how it is.
So antelope hunting, you said like you drive around a lot. Again, like I don't know anything about it. So I'll have you give me the rundown on that. It's a little less physically demanding, right? You drive around. Do you have
Way,
like
yeah, way less.
you have like
Yeah.
units that you can hunt too? You just jump out of the truck and shoot them off the side of the road, or how's that work?
So same principle. Deer is the same way too. Everything in Montana is the exact same. There's general. Well, okay, I'll just say there's general units, and then there's the areas put in for deer. Antelope used to be that way until a couple of years ago. There was a really bad disease that knocked out a lot of antelope, and so now they're all drawing areas you have to put in for units.
Mm, okay.
But the unit I put in for is 91% drawed. So I mean, it's there's and then you put in for 3 units, And so my odds of getting an antelope tag most years is really good. So yeah, it's actually really fun. I love, love, love antelope hunting. It's first of all way smaller than the elk, so you can same thing. You can just drag it easily. I mean, they're smaller than most deer I kill, and so I can just drag them out and put them in the back of the truck. And so that, yeah, first of all, that makes it a lot easier. Oftentimes I don't ever really camp. Um, yeah, I actually never have. For antelope, I've never really camped out somewhere. I usually can stay at a motel or a hotel somewhere, which also makes it really great. And that's why I think, take my dad out is having just the ability that he can just come stay in a motel and we can have fun out there. And there's nothing uncomfortable really about it. It's great. The biggest thing about antelope is like the habitat they're in is very flat. It's completely opposite for elk. The
Okay.
elk's the Rockies, it's mountainous, and you can walk 20 yards and not see elk, and then walk another 20 yards and see a huge group of them. It's just, there's so many trees and stuff, for elk, but antelope is just flat rolling plains. So the biggest thing is you don't really have to walk because you're just walking out. This is my opinion, but you're just walking out to areas you can glass from the road a lot of times. So often we just drive and see antelope, and there's no shortage of them out here, man. Especially Wyoming. I hunted Wyoming one year, and that's a different story. But I mean, I this year in my unit that I hunted, I had a really good unit. I think I probably saw 200 antelope a day, maybe, and then
Wow.
probably like 115 that I could shoot, like on land I could shoot. Um, so
No kidding.
a lot of it honestly is like picking the buck you want. Um, Especially if you're kind of driving more kind of back roads. And then especially if you get on private land, which little secret, ranchers hate antelope. I don't know what it is, but every time I'm out here, I don't think I've ever been turned down for antelope. Every time I've knocked on a door or given someone a call, they always say, "Oh yeah, please shoot them." Um,
Really?
we don't like him. Oh yeah, for sure. So, a big thing for antelope hunting is getting on Onyx and getting people's numbers if you can. I just Google their names often. You can find a business number or something, and I've given people calls. And then this year I was hunting kind of central Montana for antelope, and I got 12 different landowners that I could hunt on. And I was just going to those properties and finding antelope out there and stuff. And yeah, so a big part also is the ranger shooting out. So antelope, they say, have the eyes like an 8-powered binocular. Their eyes are incredible and they can see forever, and they're very, very spooky. So,
Okay.
I mean, even when I'm rifle hunting, like, I don't know, 4 times out of 5, my stalks are unsuccessful. Like, I'll go in
Yeah.
and at 700 yards, they see me and take off. So a lot of it's kind of playing the undulations of the hills and trying to play the hills to get in on antelope. Uh, but so it's really good to practice out to kind of longer ranges. I don't shoot ever beyond 400 yards. That's my absolute max. But this year I shot my antelope at 360, and that's honestly something to be expected. When hunting antelope, my first 2 antelope I did shoot at 100 yards. I got pretty lucky, and I'm sorry, my second and my third antelope were at 100 yards, so I was lucky with those. But my first antelope was 3 something, and then my last one was 3 something as well. It's just that their eyes and the terrain you're in, it's really tough a lot of times getting in on them close.
So I don't know really like who listens to my show. I don't really know where they're from. I don't know how many
Mhm.
people listen. I really have no idea. It might just be us here. But I'm going to ask you, how hard would it be for me to buy a tag to shoot an antelope, drive out west by myself with a rifle and some camo and a camping stove, I don't know, and kill an antelope? I mean, is that pretty like plausible for me to do as like an out of state guy
Absolutely.
that has
And
no idea, or am I just like gonna get ran through the mud?
no, I I'm scared saying this because I don't want a bunch of hunters in Montana, just because it's like people, I don't know. There's like a thing with like out of
Yeah.
staters in Montana, but it
Uh-huh.
is a super, super doable thing, especially for antelope. I'd question elk. Like elk is something I think everybody should come do once in their life for sure. It's just such a
Yeah.
special and amazing thing. And but the success rate, I think they say in Montana is like 1 in 10 for elk, usually. Antelope has got to be way. I mean, the unit I hunt is like, I think it was 85% success rate last year. Um,
Okay.
Super doable thing though. First thing I would do is I would go. I use this site called Go Hunt. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Go Hunt's great. That's actually where I found my antelope units that I hunt. I would go on Go Hunt first, and I would kind of just like look at areas and look at the draw odds. See if you want to hunt it in 2 years. You know what the draw odds will be in 2 years if you put in for 2 years. I would look at the success rate. I would kind of look at um, how many tags they give out. And then there's also a bunch of hunting forums. And you type in like unit 620 in Montana for antelope and see what people say. That's what I would do first. Once you find a unit and once you draw a tag, if you do, I would kind of start going on Onyx and maybe just calling people, especially if you call really early on. You're like, hey, I'm going to be coming out in October. Have you just usually I just ask, have you seen any antelope around? And usually right off the bat, they're like, oh yeah, please come shoot them. Like you can hunt my land. Um, Ask permission if you need to. For that, I would make a trip out. I would give yourself at least, I mean, I'm sure you'll oftentimes get one in the first 3 days, but having 5 days, 4 or 5 days would not be a bad idea. Just so
Okay.
you're kind of know you'll be, if you don't find them in like one area, you have time to go search, other areas and kind of look at stuff. Um, yeah, and then a lot of the similar stuff for elk. Bring a really good cooler, and a lot of ice. You don't need to probably bring the ice. You can buy it when you get up here. Um, yeah, just have fun out here, man. Just explore and see what you can find. It's a very, especially antelope is a very doable thing for anyone to do.
I kind of want to tackle a hunt out west, but I don't want to. Nothing against guides or anything. That stuff's great, but I don't want to really be guided on any hunts because for me personally, it takes away from it. I kind of like. I want to be able to say that I did like all of it myself. Like I would be okay with maybe like if you're like you want to hunt an antelope, like I'm gonna go with you, obviously, but like I don't want to hire a guy to take me somewhere to shoot an elk. Like I want to do some of the work. I don't know. So I kind of want to
Yeah,
get involved in some of that stuff out west, but I don't want to jump into elk like right away. I want to maybe start out
yeah,
slow, work my way up. That way I don't like get discouraged. So,
yeah. No, for sure. Yeah.
what's that cost for an out of state guy? Do you just buy a tag? Do you buy a hunting license and a tag? I mean, you have to buy it before you put
Uh,
in for the draw. Do you know?
yeah, that's a good question. I don't really know the exact number. It's less than. It depends. Elk's gonna be a little bit more for sure. I mean, it's a couple $100, but I
Just for
can't
antelope?
really for antelope. I think I sent it to you at one point. It was like maybe $200, 150, $200
Oh
maybe for
yeah, you
antelope.
may have. Yeah, you may have. Yeah. So you buy
Um,
that? You buy the antelope tag, then you put in for the draw. Is there a price to put in for the draw?
oh yeah, yeah, good question. So yeah, so for antelope, since every unit is there's not a we call it general units, is where you can just go hunt and just go buy a tag and hunt. Since there's none of
Okay.
that anymore for antelope, you have to put in and you pay a fee up front, whatever it's going to cost for antelope, and then they refund you if you don't draw.
Oh, okay. So it's just to
So they
make
give you
sure
about
that you're not gonna draw and then skimp out and then they're not gonna get their
exactly,
money.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
yeah. They put it
okay.
back on your card. Same thing for elk and deer, and there's a great hunt, a great hunt that once you maybe come to antelope, or if you just want to try this off the bat, it's fine. A great hunt is just buying the deer elk combo uh,
Hmm.
license that you can put in for as a non-resident, and then there's so many. I can't even tell you how many like thousands of acres of lands there are to hunt both elk and deer in. It's amazing. If you just go, pretty much, I think the draws are high enough that you can pretty much draw, and if not, there's leftover tags that you can just go buy. But once you do that, you can come out here and you have an elk and a deer tag in your pocket and can come hunt units where there's both in there, stuff like that.
Here's how little I know about hunting out west. So you talk about like looking on OnX, and let's just say there's a landowner. Let's just call him Bob, and I call
All
up
right.
Bob, and I'm like, I want to shoot some antelope. I just feel like, just me not knowing, I feel like Bob gets a lot of phone calls. Like he's gonna be like, "This is
Oh
another
yeah.
guy calling me." Is like every landowner out there getting a ton of calls every year where they're just like, "Please stop calling me," or like here, like if you ask for permission to hunt land, like they might get somebody ask every couple years, but it's like not really like, unless it's like a prime spot, they probably don't get hounded that much. But I feel like out there, like they probably get hounded a lot, don't they? You think?
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, for elk, I think probably all the time, and that's why people don't really give permission for elk. Like usually if there's elk on a property and you see them all the time out there, it's usually family and friends that are out there only, and you can't
Yeah.
just go ask. So deer's back and forth. I have gotten permission for deer on property by calling. This year, I don't know why I was just so unlucky. I probably called 10 or 11 different people, and all of them said no this year for deer. And to be fair, a lot of times I was driving and I'd see a really nice buck on a piece of property and call and be like, "Hey, can I hunt your property? Like, there's a nice buck out here." And oftentimes they say no, which is totally fine. There's still plenty of public to hunt. And then antelope, I don't know why, but they just people just can't stand antelope. I don't know why, but
Really?
almost always people give permission for antelope. Probably also because there's so many out here that they just, and it's not like there's some giant rack, antelope out
Yeah.
there that they want to protect. Like every buck, is relatively speaking the same size, and people aren't super into, you know, protecting them and stuff. So antelope's pretty easy for sure for per private.
I feel like it's like here, the biggest like thing that we have that's like cool to hang on your wall and everything is like a deer. So like no one's gonna give you permission to hunt a deer, but they might give you permission to hunt squirrels. So like there, nobody's gonna let you hunt an elk, but they don't really care about the
Yeah, it's the
antelope.
same thing, right? It's the
Yeah,
same thing. Yeah,
same kind of concept because it's more majestic and more wall hanging and like sticks out more and
exactly.
yeah. So
I've seen like antelope like hop on top of hay bales and start eating on people's hay bales and stuff.
oh,
And
really? So
they're
they're kind
yeah,
of like the raccoons or the possums of the
no, absolutely, yeah.
yeah.
This one landowner this year. I actually asked him. I was like, why do you like give everyone just or why do you just like why does everybody give you permission for antelope? And I can't remember what the cost was, but he was talking about how much it costs him in terms of his crop, when a group of antelope walk through his field and eat all of it. I can't remember like what he was growing, but it's like a couple $100. Like if they're like going through pieces of property and then like a big group's eating all this stuff, and he's talking how much he gets per like stock or whatever. Um, and that's kind of why they don't like him as much. And which to me, just as a hunter, and especially as like a hunter that dreamed as a kid about hunting, antelope are just such a special and amazing creature because there's just nothing like them over here. Like the deer,
Yeah.
elk, and moose are kind of all part of the same like deer kind of family now. Antelope are just so different, and their cape is beautiful, and they just it's I don't know, they're just so different, so pretty. Um, I don't know,
People
I
don't
love hunting them.
people don't understand it because they don't spend time learning about them and hunting them. You learn a lot about animals when you hunt them. People think you just kill them, but 99% of hunters or people like us know a lot more about animals than people that are anti-hunting. They claim to love the deer, but they don't know anything about them. It's kind of
Yeah,
funny.
exactly. My cousin and I this year we were in this little town called Roundup, Montana. It's super small, and it's a really hard area to draw for antelopes. I'm okay. I feel like I'm okay saying it, but my cousin and I we were there for a family reunion, and we decided we were going to spend a whole day and just go drive east and just see what we could find. And we just spent the whole day just glassing antelope, and we saw hundreds and hundreds of antelope, and it was like the funnest day I've ever had, and I didn't even have a gun with me. And all I did was just look at antelope all day. And that's kind of what like. That's definitely part of it. Like I feel like there's a bad rep, especially lately on social media. It's just a bad rep for hunters. Like, oh, you guys just kill for the trophy. You kill for, like the pleasure of the kill. I'm like, no, there's so much beauty in animals, and there's so much beauty in the hunt as well. It's just so much more that people don't understand. That goes into hunting, in my opinion.
They have no idea. Are you only on Instagram or are you on any other social media
Yeah,
platforms?
I'm only on. Well, I don't have a TikTok, but I used to. I don't have it anymore, but I used to have TikTok. But never ever post anything. But yeah, really really only on Instagram, and then I watch a lot of YouTube and stuff like that.
I'm glad you touched on TikTok. I like to bring this up a lot. I'm actually on TikTok. I'm on my now second profile for Hunt the Wild. Originally it was Hunt the Wild. Now it's Hunt the Wild Podcast. It's Hunt the Wild Podcast now because I'm one video from being banned on TikTok because TikTok does not like hunting. They're
Really?
absolutely 100% anti-hunting. So by that I mean you post a picture of a bow or you post like a video with your bow in it too long, like not just like a skim for anyone watching, it has to be like this fast. You post it like this fast, it's getting taken down. They don't put up with any kind of let's say like dead animals. Like if you're on there and you're like want to do a how-to video of how to gut a deer, they're not having it. Like it's going to get taken down like instantly. So I play the game with them on there, and I post hunting content, and I'm part of like I don't know if you know how it works, but like the more of a certain kind of content you watch, the more like what shows up. So if you watch hunting content, you're going to see more hunting content. So there is a group, kind of like a niche group on there of people that post hunting stuff. So I play the game. I post hunting stuff. I try to keep some of the blood and gore out of it, but they keep banning me. I'm just going to keep making accounts, and good luck
awesome,
trying to stop me.
Yeah, that's oh man. It's just,
but
yeah, I just wish it wasn't that way. If more people knew what hunting actually is, a lot of stuff would be different.
It's just, insane.
Bad rep.
It cracks me up. It cracks me up because people, let's say, I don't know, let's say a lady named, I don't know, Susan is on there. Susan can have a whole cooking channel where she's like tenderizing meat and throwing chicken breast in the oven. But it's like if you leave the hair on it, it's like instantly it's like gory or something. I just don't really.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's just kind of like baffling, if it doesn't look like it came off of like Walmart's grocery meat shelf, then like they're not having it. It's really strange, actually. But yeah, I won't get on that rant too much longer. So you're in college. How far away do you live from home? Do you live in the same town?
4 hours. 4 hours.
Okay, so if you want to go hunting. Man, I don't know. I'm just gonna ask it. If you don't want to answer it, that's fine. If you want to go hunting at this unit that's like around your school tomorrow, you're gonna skip class or whatever. It's like rifle season. Where do you keep a gun if you're at school? Do you like live off campus?
I joke with my mom all the time and other people that I picked Carroll College because they have a gun locker here.
No shit.
For hunters, actually.
No
yeah,
kidding.
So they do. There's so many hunters that go here. My roommate, his name's Caleb. He's a phenomenal hunter. He puts more miles on in a day than I do. I mean, he said to me today that he had a 16-mile day this year.
Wow.
He walked 16 miles, and he had a great season. He shot a bull with his bow, and then he also shot a nice whitetail buck. But so there's so many hunters here that they actually made a gun locker here at Carroll. And you can store your gun there. So that's one place. And then the other place is I have friends here that have apartments as well that are off campus and houses. And they'll let me. I have this deal with this kid. And he lets me store my gun there, and then I give him elk meat like in exchange.
Yeah. Tell me how the gun locker works. So you show up. Let's say you went home for the summer, and let's say you're coming back to school. and you got a rifle with you. What do you do?
You just go to them. You fill out some paperwork, and they put it in the gun locker. You have to tell them a day in advance that you're going to be taking it out of the gun locker. And I actually keep my bolt. I put the gun in there, but I keep my bolt in my truck so
Oh,
that they're separate, so nothing. I have like
yeah.
this fear that like something's bad, someone's going to take the gun and do something. It's going to come back to my name. So I just like eliminating that possibility and just taking my bolt. But yeah, you ask them a day in advance to take the gun out, and then it's really easy. They're pretty laid back here. Just being Montana and stuff, and the fact that I mean, a lot of people you talk to, you can usually say, "Hey, do you hunt?" And 50% of the time, you're probably going to get a yes from them.
Do they like walk it out to your car, or they just like hand it to you? Do they keep the
I have mine in a
ammunition?
case. Nope, they don't keep the ammo. And yeah, it's usually just in a case. So oftentimes I can just take it in the case and just walk it out. Pretty pretty easy. I mean, when I'm walking into stores, I'll have like Sportsman's Warehouse or something like that. I'll have or Cabela's. I'll have them look at my gun or look at a part or something, and I can usually just carry it in a case, no problem. And it's pretty laid back here.
So if they come in and do some kind of random inspection or something, I don't know, and you got some ammo sitting out next to your, I don't know, sitting on top of your fridge or something, I don't know. Like, are they gonna just like overlook it, right? It's not like a
I
big
yeah,
thing.
I don't really know if I were to give my best guess, which this is probably true. I'm sure anybody that walks in my room and sees ammo would probably just respectfully ask me to just take it out, and they wouldn't take it. They would report me. They would most of the time. It's all okay. It's
Yeah.
it's very normal to be driving around Montana during hunting season, and you see deer in the back of trucks. You see elk horns sticking out of the trucks. You see rifles in people's cars. Like it's a pretty normal thing out here for sure.
So if you go hunting, let's say you go hunting tomorrow and you shoot, I don't know, let's say you shoot an elk. Do you live in a dorm or you live in an apartment?
I'm in a dorm.
Okay,
I'm in
so
a dorm.
what are you gonna do with a big elk?
I'm skipping class tomorrow. That's what I'm doing. But yeah. So this year, actually, I ended up skipping. I skipped 5 days of school for my elk hunt, where I killed my bull this year, and I've been really lucky. And my brother drove up and met me up here and went on our elk hunt. Actually, 3 hours farther away from my house, so farther from Helena. So he was 7 hours away. Um, and when we got my elk, we actually had it processed over there in this particular town. And uh, usually where I hunt, I can have it processed there because there's processing places in pretty much every town in Montana. So I have it
Okay.
processed there. The processor will keep it for a while for me. I came about 3.5 weeks after I killed my elk to come pick it up, and they just held it for me. And I kind of just wait till I have a free weekend, and then I'll go over there and pick it up, and then I'll actually bring it home to my actual house and store it in the freezer over there because I there's really no way I can store anything but jerky in my dorm,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Do people
We just got a little mini fridge in here, so not much.
do people crawl all over you to get jerky there? Because that's like a thing people do here. Like if you have
Do
deer
they what?
jerky, they're like vultures.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's bad over here. I made the mistake last year at my school. I told everybody like, oh, because I was so stoked that I killed an elk with my bow. I was like, I told everyone like, oh, I killed this elk. Like it's gonna be great. Like you guys can all have like this meat and this jerky. Yeah, I gave away so much of that stuff, and I think like I don't know, I probably had 15 packages of jerky maybe, and I had two left at the end of all of it, and I was so mad at myself. My dad was upset, like because my dad paid for the processing on that elk, and he was like, "You just gave all that away." I'm like, "Yeah, like I want everybody to try my elk." That was a mistake. Won't be doing that again for sure.
Yeah, jerky. All right. Do they shoot your jerky? Like, do they grind it and shoot out of a gun, or is it whole muscle like jerky?
I think it's whole muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I make like here, if you get jerky made at a processor, they grind it and then they like shoot it out of a gun and all of it's
Out of the
like
gun, like in the
uniform.
strips.
Yeah, and the strips, and it's
Yeah.
not nearly as good as whole muscle jerky, but whole muscle jerky is kind of like you got to marinate it, dehydrate it, and watch it. Like it's kind of a process to do, and
I've never done it on my own. I'd love to, but I've never
it
done it.
it's not bad, but it's like they say that you get a third of what you put in because of all the water. So if you put in a pound, you're getting a third of that back, like after it's all dried out and everything. But I mean, let's say you do a pound, a third of that, like it ain't gonna go very far. Like you're trying to
Yeah, for
hide it and
sure.
stuff. It's like gold.
No, for sure. I call those bags of jerkies my bags of gold last year. Whenever my friends would want to take, I'm like, yeah, you gotta be careful, man. This is gold right here, man.
This is gold. So you already told me, but just to kind of recap, what do you study in college? Like, what's your major?
My major is philosophy and theology are my majors, and I'm pre-law, so I'll be planning on going to law school after I finish my undergrad.
I That sounds really hard. I want to ask you why you didn't choose something in the outdoor field. Did you feel like you didn't want to like I know some people don't like want to do stuff that they're like passionate about or whatever because they don't want to like taint it. They don't want it to like be their full-time job because they don't want it to be a job instead of an enjoyment. Is that maybe why you didn't go down that path, or am I totally off?
No, you're totally on. It's a big part of it. Yeah, so I had this neighbor, and he told me that I should. Well, he told me that he always kind of kept hunting as a hobby more, and he kind of had his work life and hunting separate. So it was more of a kind of a special thing, and I kind of took that on. And I think that if I worked personally in the hunting industry, like again, I think that people that work in the hunting industry are great, and I think it's a needed thing. But if I were to work in the hunting industry, I feel like I might eventually see it as work a little bit, like the hunting part of it as work. And I just want to keep the love that I have for hunting right now. So that was definitely a part of it. And then the other part of it was simply my love for philosophy and theology. And I had a teacher in high school that really inspired me. His name was Dr. Paulson, and uh, he taught me a lot about writers in philosophy and his love for it. And I started reading philosophy myself and studying it, and it became just a passion for me. Um, and since my parents are both lawyers in Whitefish, um, my mom always told me that philosophy and theology would couple really well with pre-law, because a lot of times what people are looking for when you go to law school is just the ability to think and just have like a thought process and a logical thought process. And going into law with that ability to think, especially with really deep topics that are seen in philosophy, it works really well with law. And I used to watch my dad in the courtroom a lot, and see him preparing for trials and talking to clients. And I was always very kind of attracted to my dad's work, and what he did. And I just still do an immense amount of respect for how much my dad works and how great he is at his job. And it's something that I look up to so much that I want to be like that. Like when I see him talking in a courtroom, I just want to be like that so badly. Um, and so, and also being a lawyer himself, he has the blessing of kind of being able to pick a lot of his hours, which would be really good for hunting as well. If I ever
Yeah.
got to that point where I could, um, work really hard in the early season of the year, and then later in the fall, kind of still work, but take kind of more time off to hunt. So all that combined kind of is why I'm here and why I'm studying what I am, pretty much.
What what kind of law do you want to like? Are you wanting to defend criminals? Are you wanting to do like
Not criminal. I like civil law. Civil law, like a
yeah?
lot of like property disputes and kind of stuff like that. That's what my dad's into, and it's really good, especially in whitefish right now. And whitefish is crazy growing right now, and there's so many cases coming up. And my dad's just flooded with work right now, and and it's never. I don't know. Personally, for me, I would have a really tough time dealing in criminal law just because it's so much pressure. Like it's someone's like the life
Yeah.
that they're living that's on the line for them right now. Civil is a little bit more like it's just like disputes kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, criminal law, it's a little intimidating to me a little bit. a ton of respect for the people that do it, and it's amazing they can do it. But for me, it just seems like a lot of pressure.
Maybe you'll get a case someday where you get to some guy says, well, that's my land. I shot that elk there. And the other guy's like, no, that's my land. And it'll be like right on the property line. I don't know. It's like
Yeah,
a
there you
civil
go.
issue. Maybe that's
My dad
more
had
criminal. I don't know.
he had a case one time with a gun range that was kind of near some houses, and the
Oh,
people built this huge gun range, and the houses started complaining about it, and they got in this huge dispute, and I can't remember what happened in that case, but my dad ended up defending the gun range, and it was really cool because after the my dad's client gave my dad and I the keys to the gun range, like our own membership that I still have to this day. That was years ago, and we
oh
still
yeah,
use this home. But
that's
yeah,
super
that was the case.
nice.
Yeah, it was cool. It was really awesome.
Have you ever had anything go terribly wrong while you were hunting? You ever seen anybody
I
like get shot or break their leg or get attacked by something? I don't know. What's anything stick out to you?
I mean, I've made every mistake in the book pretty much. It's just how you learn, so I'm okay with it. I've played the wind wrong so many times. It's just a stupid amount of times. Um, I have missed shots. I have wounded animals that I couldn't recover. I've made bad shots that I later regretted shooting those shots, which is a big learning thing and something that I think about a lot. And I practice a lot in the summer with a rifle, and I'm always experimenting with different loads and rounds, and kind of always making sure that my shots will be ethical. But when it doesn't go down that way, it's a pretty terrible feeling that happens. I was so this guy who I will not name and my dad, they were both walking down these two ditches, and we were pheasant hunting, and they're probably 60, 70, 80 yards apart, something like that. I can't really remember. But I was to the left of my dad, so I was kind of farther away from the guy. We're walking down this ditch, and this bird pops up, and this guy with a 12 gauge turns and shoots my dad. So my dad like hits the ground, and I was so scared. I thought he was like really hurt. So he hits the ground, and I go. We always wear safety glasses, which is great. And there was just like blood just like squirting out of his head,
Oh my
and this BB hit him in
gosh.
the head, and then he got two in the shoulder. And he said the one he couldn't even feel the one in his head, but the two in the shoulder hurt really bad. He was My dad's tough, man. He got up, he was fine. He thought the BB had just bounced off his head, and the two didn't go through his coat, so he forgave the guy and then went on with his day. Um, Go a year later, my dad's in an MRI, and they won't let him go in because he got this metal in his head. And they
Oh, it's
go,
still there.
there was a BB a year later still in his head, and he didn't even know. So he had a plastic surgeon go in and take it out, this BB, and he saw it and everything. It was super scary, but kind of a good learning experience for everyone a little bit, just being mindful of what you're shooting at, and, knowing your target and beyond and everything like that.
You got tunnel vision.
Oh my
I heard
gosh, yeah.
I heard that's pretty common when you hunt birds a lot. People get
I think it
so
is, yeah.
excited that they don't see anything else that's around them.
It's good you're hunting with birdshot too out of a shotgun, not
Yeah.
which is just different than rifling. I mean, my grandpa's been shot a couple times for sure, and I mean, we have a huge family. It's lineage that I've always hunted over in Eastern Montana. There's tons of stories of people getting shot, but it's good. It's just shotgun, a birdshot, and not something worse.
Did he keep the BB?
Oh my gosh! I told him, like, you should have sent it in an envelope back to that guy and told him he could have his BB back. But I think my dad just threw it away.
Oh
I
my
couldn't even
gosh.
believe it. I was like, I can't. Oh, here's something you'll find interesting. Speaking of stuff being down and stuff, when I was skinning my elk, I found a broadhead right behind the elk front
Oh,
shoulder.
did you send me a picture of that? Maybe you might have. I
No,
can't
I
remember.
didn't.
No?
You may have seen it on Instagram or something, but I was skinning it, and I found it was literally a broadhead stuck right in the hide of my elk, and I shot it with a rifle. So, and it was you couldn't see it, like just like looking at the elk, there was no wound. It had like grown into the hide, so it was like
Huh.
it was flesh, and you couldn't really tell unless you skinned it. But that was pretty interesting to find.
So did they, what do you think? They shot it too far away and they didn't get enough penetration, or just could have
Yeah, I was.
deflected and barely nicked it or something?
That's what I was thinking. Like either like it was a it was a bad broadhead first of all. I couldn't even tell what it was, but it just did not look like a good broadhead. It may have like just hit a rib and just had no power behind it. He may have hit like kind of quartering away shot and it just didn't really penetrate. And it just kind of like barely went in and didn't like actually get good penetration.
Yeah.
I mean, elk are tough though. There are so many stories of people finding broadheads in elk, and I mean they're just a tough animal, man.
It's funny to think that somebody probably tracked that thing for miles thinking it was dead, bleeding everywhere.
Exactly.
And yeah.
Yeah.
What's the coolest thing you've ever experienced while out hunting? Do you, I know that's putting you on the spot, but
No, no, no. I found a lot of dead animals like out there killed by wolves or bears. Um,
yeah,
yeah, that's crazy to see. I find actually I don't find that many sheds. My roommate's pretty cool. He finds a lot of sheds every year.
yeah.
He found two elk sheds this year, and finding elk sheds are so cool because they're just so big and they take up your pack when you pack them out. And so I found one of those a couple weeks ago when I was hunting with my friend Eric. I found an elk shed, but yeah, I've come across a lot of carcasses and something that's not very cool. I've actually also come across a lot of like poached carcasses over the years. Like
Really?
animals, yeah, animals that have a bullet hole right through the shoulder and just left there.
You usually
I've
cut
seen
the
quite a
heads
few.
off.
I haven't in the past. I usually just report them. I haven't found anything monstrous yet. They're usually just like little 3 points or something. But um, yeah, I haven't come across anything too big.
So to wrap it up, I'll ask you like maybe I'll ask you two questions. What advice would you give to someone kind of wanting to get involved in hunting? Maybe they're been once with a friend, or maybe they don't know anything about it. Like, what advice would you give them? Like, maybe they have no idea where to start. They don't maybe really
Yeah,
know anyone. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I would just say just go try it. Like, I think a lot of people are always they're like, oh yeah, hunting would be really cool. And then every year goes by, and they're kind of just like, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. Or like, I'm just they come up with an excuse like I'm waiting for someone I know to go out, or like I'm waiting till I can find a really good area or whatever. I would say like with the expectation of like not getting anything and just trying it out, just go do it. Because I think there's personally, I have just as much fun hunting when I don't get something as when I do. I bet it's pretty similar for you, right? Like, do you ever just go out and just love being out there,
Yeah,
and enjoying nature?
I actually just like to film, but I never really get to. Like sometimes I just want to go and take a camera. Like I don't even want to take a bow or a gun, but I
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
hunt with that many people, so it's usually like me and the camera and the gun. But yeah, I mean, I totally like it's not about. I mean, obviously, like I want to kill enough to where I don't buy meat really from the store, so I gotta get that sorted out. But I mean, if you go out expecting to kill something every time, like you're just like it's not gonna happen.
Exactly. Yeah. No, for sure. Especially especially for elk. I mean, it took me I started when I was 13, I didn't kill one. So it took me 5 years to kill an elk. And that was I mean, my ratio of hunting elk to other animals is probably 5 to 1. I mean, there's that much time put out in the field. And the fact that I every year kept hunting and kept loving hunting as like my main passion in life and what I think about every year, and the fact I didn't kill an elk for 5 years really should say something about how much I just love going out and doing it, even if I don't get anything. And that's why people should try it. Like, I feel like people can find a love in hunting, whether it's not hunting or just filming animals or being out in nature and just getting out. People just need to go do it. And then through experience, um, listen to podcasts, like watch YouTube videos, talk to other people that hunt. And through that experience, you're going to get good at hunting over time. And you're going to end up finding more animals. And you're going to end up killing more animals. I'd say the same thing about anybody that wants to come out west. Like, just try it. Just try to commit one year. If you can save up enough money where it's comfortable and you can make the trip out, like, you're going to have a good time, very likely, even if you don't get anything. And especially if you're hunting for antelope or deer, you're probably going to see stuff. If you're hunting antelope, you're probably going to kill something. But even if you don't, it's a win-win in my opinion. Like I just don't think you can lose while hunting, really, in my opinion.
I think it's super. What do you say? It was 5 years before you got one. You say
Yeah,
three? Or,
5 years.
yeah, five. So I think a lot of people get discouraged. Like around here, it's more with deer. They go and they don't get one. They spend the money, which is not that much. You can get like a bundle here. We can get a buck and two does for $65, which is not bad at all. But
No,
they
not at
spend the
all.
money
No.
and they buy all this stuff, and then they go and they don't kill one. The next year they go, they don't kill one. The next year they go, they don't kill one. They're like kind of fall off. I think if people would try other stuff, like if you hunt deer, like if you throw in squirrel hunting or dove hunting, maybe something to like scratch your itch to maybe keep you from like falling off the total bandwagon, like that might
Yeah.
help people too, because some people it's really important to them to see like progress. And when you hunt deer and you don't get one, it's hard. You kind of get like where you're like, man, did deer even exist? Like, so I don't know. That's something like just kind of popped in my head. Like, if you're deer hunting or whatever you're hunting and you're not like seeing results, keep trying it, but maybe try something that's a little easier to kind of and you learn stuff. Like when you squirrel hunt, you learn how to hunt deer too because you see
Oh,
tracks and you
absolutely.
see so it all kind of like ties into each other. But
That's what I really liked the episode you did with the rookie hunter. I can't remember her
uh-huh.
name.
Yep,
Um,
Elizabeth.
yeah, great. That was an awesome podcast. I really liked. It was amazing because it's almost like her worldviews changed a
Yeah.
little bit. Like what
Mm-hmm.
she grew up doing just completely changed, and then she found this new passion that I followed her on Instagram now, and I see her out like on her stories, and she's always like out hunting and stuff. It's really cool to see someone who is just not into it at all and just never thought it would be on the radar to someone who has such a love for it now.
Super
And
anti
just not
too.
even.
She was
Yeah,
super,
exactly.
yeah, vegan.
I couldn't believe that, and it made me think like what would the world be like if there was a positive view on hunting? Like if all those like anti-hunters saw like what hunting really was. It kind of gave me like hope listening to it. Like, it's not completely like that hunting's like going away, but there's still people out there who are like exploring it and
Yeah.
trying new things. And it was really interesting to listen to that one.
I try to do that with a little bit of comedy, a little bit of I kind of do like on my TikTok or whatever. I do stuff that's hunting related, but I do everything hunting related, but I do put in a little bit of comedy to kind of help people understand that like hunters are not like total savages. Like we're not just like
Exactly.
stabbing deer in the throat and like just leaving them there. Like there's more to the process. You know what I mean? It's not just like kill like to be a killer. There's definitely more to like sustainability, conservation. Like people just think you shoot a deer just because you like to shoot deer. Like my least favorite part of hunting is like actually killing the animal. I like
Yeah.
the whole
Oh yeah.
process of
Yeah.
it. So yeah, it's nice when people like shed light on that. What would be your
Yeah.
dream hunt and why?
Oh, that's a great question. So ultimate dream is Africa.
Yeah.
I've known people that went to Africa. My neighbor, who was really cool, he has a bunch of mounts from Africa. He went last year. So if I ever get enough money, is the big thing for Africa. But that's the dream. And then a more kind of realistic dream would be Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to go get a caribou up there, and then I'm a kudu guy. Always been. And Brendan Burns, who's now the CEO of Kuyu, he went up and shot this huge, huge bear up in Alaska with his bow, like really close. It was like less than 15 yards. It was a
Oh my
huge bear.
God.
And since I saw that video probably 3 or 4 years ago, it's always been on my mind a little bit. So that's one day when I get comfortable, like very comfortable with bow and feel like I will have the ability to do that. I would a brown bear like that with my bow would be a big dream of mine as well.
Man, I'd love to kill a grizzly. I
Yeah,
mean,
They're insane.
I can't even fathom what the whole, like, I just can't even imagine what it would be like, the whole hunt, the whole process, like just being.
That's different because that thing will come after you. I mean,
Mhm.
that's a predator hunt. That's a scary hunt, which is like cool to me. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes it seem like it'd be such an accomplishment if you could get it done.
Um, I probably should have tied this in a little sooner, but it's funny that you live out west and I live over here. Have you ever hunted from a tree stand?
I was I was actually thinking about talking about that a little bit. I have one time, um, and I have nothing against tree stand hunting, and I think it's awesome, but it's just different than what I've always done.
Yeah.
Because I've always just I mean I just walk. Like it's just so much hiking and calling and you're like active kind of my style of hunting. And it was just this piece of property and there was this nice buck on it and I really wanted to kill it during archery season. I thought the only way I could do it really would be a tree stand. So I went and bought one at Cabela's and did it. I was you might think this is funny. The first time I went up there, I was like, man, this thing's kind of high. Like I hope this thing doesn't fall down or anything like
Did
that.
you
It was
what
a
kind of
little
was it like a climber? Was it like a ladder stand or
it was a ladder stand. It was a ladder
okay.
stand.
Yeah.
And it was just still like just being up there was just different than what I've ever done. And it's kind of like, man, this is like high up. This is I hope I don't fall out of this thing. And I had my safety harness and stuff, and it was just different. But I'm glad I did it and kind of tried it out. You know.
Yeah, I hunt a lot out of a tree stand, like spend a lot of hours on a 2x2, 2 foot by 2 foot or so platform. And
Yeah.
my wife and I were actually hunting a newer property that we had the other day, and we shot a doe on the way in, and we came out. It was still like 2 hours before light, before last light, and we drug the doe out to the field, and we still had some time, so we kind of there's a lot of deer out in this field. And it's like a mile long field. So we kind of like moved around the field and like we're a little more active and stuff. And that's not like something that you get to really do around here a whole lot. Like you don't like walk
Mm-hmm.
around fields and try to stalk deer really. And I kind of like envy you guys because I really, really enjoy like being able to move around because like
Oh yeah,
sitting in a stand for hours on end
that's got to get cold, man.
it can get
That'd
brutal.
get
It
chilly.
just
Yeah,
yeah, and they're metal, so your feet get really cold usually.
man.
But
Yeah, respect to you guys for staying in there and doing it though.
have you
It's uh,
ever
it's awesome.
have you ever been out this way? I don't know if I call it the Midwest. It's more like really east for you, but have you ever been this way at all?
I mean, I've traveled that way for sure. During tennis, we used to go over a bunch of states, all over. But I've only hunted Montana and Wyoming. I've never hunted
Yeah.
anywhere else. Mostly just being a broke college kid. It's the non-resident tags are expensive, but um, yeah, I would like to. I mean, I have really big dreams for hunting, but I would like to definitely go tackle some of those states and go find a big whitetail over there one day. Would be awesome.
We got big whitetails here, but it's all tree stand hunting. I don't know. It's probably you hunting in a tree
If it's a
stand would
big
be
enough
like
whitetail, man, I might be able to sit in a tree stand. We'll see.
well, if you ever make it out to Indiana, there's another podcaster that I've kind of Blue River bow hunting. He lives just a couple hours north of me. So if you ever make it to Indiana, I can probably hook you up with him up north or me down here. We're more like river bottom. There's a little bit of hills, I'll say. I don't think you'd have any problem climbing them. But yeah, if you ever make it here, maybe we'll set something up and
I
get
appreciate
you
it.
on a
Same to you, man.
whitetail.
You got my number, so you call me or whatever you need to do if you ever come out here, and I can. If I can't come with you, I can certainly point you in the right direction of what to do for sure.
What year are you in college?
I'm a freshman in college. I'm 19 years old.
Okay, so you'll be around for a while. I'm gonna think about trying to plan a hunt out there. I don't know. I've kind of been thinking about the whole antelope game because I want to start slow, but I wasn't really sure
Mm-hmm.
like if it was feasible for me to drive. I don't even know how far it is. Probably like 18 hours or something. I have no
That's a
idea.
long way, man. Yeah,
But I'll,
I spent a lot of time. in Eastern Montana, especially, if you do ever go do that, antelope season's 2 weeks before the start of rifle for deer and elk. So it's kind of its
Okay.
own little rifle season. And usually I'm over there antelope hunting. So I'm sure if you come out, we can figure out something to do over there.
When does that fall? Do you know what?
The date you're talking?
Yeah, just like antelope rifle. Is it like in September, October,
No,
November?
it's October 9th. So it's the deer and elk have the same season dates. So
Okay.
antelope starts October 9th, which is kind of in the middle of the deer and elk bow season. Because
Okay.
it's 6 weeks of bow, 6 weeks of rifle for elk and deer. And I think it goes till early November. There is a really cool tag. It's called the 900 tag. And you can hunt antelope with a bow starting August 15th through like November in pretty
Mm,
much every unit in Montana. There's
wow.
no there's no limited units. You can hunt anywhere you see antelope in Montana. You can pretty much go hunt them with a bow. But it's a
It's
and it's
super
also
hard.
it's also an over the counter kind of tag. So you can just go pretty much go buy it. If it's not if the draws are like maybe 98%. But yeah, that is what I want to do as well. That's a very tough hunt, but it sounds like a fun one though.
All right. Well, I'll have everybody who is just listening and not watching YouTube. I'll throw your name up here real quick. Tell everybody where to find you on Instagram. I'm sure Ryan would be open to helping you if you want to go out west
Yeah,
and try to
absolutely.
figure out those animals. He's full of info about that
Yeah,
stuff. So
I got pictures too. My Instagram, so you can go look at those. But so yeah, it's Ryan underscore Frampton one, Frampton. And just shoot me a DM if you guys have any questions. I love helping people. I've pointed a lot of people in the right direction for help, and I've kind of guided a lot of my friends and stuff to help them get animals. So if you guys have any questions about coming out west, or if you have an area in mind that you want to ask me about, I also know most of the areas of Montana, or I've heard stuff about it. So just hit me up and let me know, and I can definitely help you guys out.
well, Ryan, I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's probably what time is it there? Is it 10 o'clock?
No, it's I think it's 8 o'clock right now. Yeah, 8 o'clock.
Oh, okay. So you're an hour behind me. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
I appreciate you taking the time, and I'll get with you on Instagram, and we'll catch up. And I'm gonna be looking into maybe coming out. Maybe I'll do an antelope hunt next year. I don't know. I get a couple weeks off a year. Probably do a
cool, man.
family vacation and take off maybe 1 week, but I don't know.
Let
I
me
want to
know,
get
man.
something
Your
planned.
worst case scenario, you get to come to a beautiful place and come see some new beautiful country. So it's kind of a win-win, man.
All right, man. I'll catch up with you, and thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Thanks again for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. We'll see you.
All right, bye.